Coaches do not need to roll with their students to make them better. So I've made a previous video on this. You guys can check it out. The link will be in the description of the video. If you want to check that out first before watching this one. My opinions on this have evolved slightly. So much more so than before, I don't think it's necessary for coaches to roll with their students in order to make them better. And here's why. When you're rolling with your students, it's only a one-on-one interaction, and it's more so a training session for both of you than it is a coaching session. I may give the training partner that I have tips afterwards, after the roll, and when I roll with my students, I usually do, right? I'm like, hey, I think you need to work this area. This is how I caught you. This is the mistake that you made. This is what we need to fix. But I only get to do that with one person if I'm rolling with them in that 5-minute round. Whereas if I'm instead walking around to the various roles that are occurring, I can coach multiple people. I can coach multiple people at once. Even if I'm only watching one role, I can coach 2 people at the same time, and I can get a better idea of 2 of my students' games than I can the one that I was personally rolling with. So it helps my students more for me to walk around and coach the various roles that are occurring, find mistakes, fix them immediately, make them address them, versus just rolling with one student at a time. Also, I want you to consider this. What other sport is there where the coaches, trainers are expected to partake in the competition aspect of the sport with their students, with the people that they're coaching? There is none, right? You don't see basketball coaches going on the basketball court with professional NBA players. You don't see football coaches going on the football field with professional football players. You don't see it with soccer players. You don't see it with tennis players. You don't see it with you basically don't see it with any other sport. So why do we hammer away that it's important to roll with your students in Jiu-Jitsu? It's really not. And by the way, John Danaher, one of the best coaches in the world, he does not roll with his students very frequently. And when he does, he has to do it in a very limited way because of his injuries. And yet, he's produced some of the best grapplers on the planet. So just by virtue of that, you can see it's not necessary to roll with your students. And in fact, it probably hurts them more if you only roll with them during open mat versus walk around and coach and get a third-person perspective of the entire role that they're having with somebody else. So you want to do what's best for your students and what's going to progress them the fastest. And what's going to progress them the fastest is, instead of rolling with them, you walk around and you coach. You make corrections. You make sure that they're doing things properly. You make sure that people are being safe. As a coach, that's much more valuable than simply rolling. Now, all of that being said, if you get a new student in your school and they want to make sure that you are legitimate, one of the easiest ways to do it is for them to roll with you. And you should, right? Whenever I get a new student in the school, and I get the sense, or they directly say that they want to roll with me, I always do it because I want to show them that I actually have the ability to implement the skills that I'm teaching. This isn't something that's available for everybody to do. If you're older, if you have injuries, obviously you can't do this. But it is an easy way to show that your skill in your school is legitimate to the outsider who may be a little bit skeptical. So in that case, I think, yeah, you should roll. Now, for your training, if you're a coach, right, for your training, try to get it outside of the context of a normal class, okay? Sometimes you're going to have to roll with your students during open mat, but you could also cross-train. You can go to your instructor school, or you could go to another school over the weekend and get an open mat and get some hard competitive rounds in, or you can set up that kind of training yourself at your own school. But, you don't want to just use open mat and use the drills as an opportunity for your own improvement over your students' improvement, right? Your students are improving to get, your students are paying you to get the best instruction possible. And the best instruction possible, I think, is usually from a third-person coaching perspective. So, I know this is a little bit controversial, and some people are adamant that you must roll with your students to make them better. But again, I think now we have enough evidence, namely from Danaher and others, that this simply is not the case, and you can make someone much, much better by just taking a third-person perspective and coaching multiple people at the same time during rolls. So, thanks guys for watching. If you disagree, if you have something you want to expand upon, make sure you drop a comment. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Also, smash the thumbs up button, guys. That really helps us. We'll see you next time.